Good morning and welcome to today's live show. Make sure if you're tuning in after this thing goes live, right after we post it, make sure to tune into the last 15 minutes because if you're not catching it live, you're going to need a little breakdown. That's going to come at the last 15 minutes of this video. But before you head off, if you are looking at this not live, just make sure to keep in mind that the course down below is today only, just because I knew some people wanted to ask some questions about it live. So I don't like ending a sale on a Saturday. So what I was going to do was today only, we're going to do the 149 deal. So 149 gets you that course, and the price will go up tomorrow. So make sure to grab that if you're interested in learning about these stocks. Now, what are we saying, or how to read stocks? Now, what are we saying going forward? Well, we're saying some kind of resistance could come in. This is actually a good sign to break through this zone. We have our daily expected moves. We have our weekly expected moves. Those have been updated. And if you're on Patreon, you can get those for the individual stocks. Those are going to come very important throughout a squeeze. But what can we see early on today? We're going to pay attention for any kind of 15-minute divergence, see if this wants to fade, or if we're just going to keep squeezing. Remember, we can keep squeezing. We see all the signals for a squeeze. That signal on the 2-hour for the VIX has not confirmed yet. Therefore, we can keep squeezing. We can see the daily momentum really take over here, and we just have to be patient for an entry point. But at this point, we're holding some of our longs, right, and we're just hedging this area right here. If you're part of the Patreon, this is where I was mostly saying, like, let's hedge to the downside just in case, but it doesn't mean you have to sell out of everything, because we're seeing upward moves. We're seeing that daily momentum start to take over on things like AMD. If we pop over to AMD, you're seeing this make a big move up. Okay, that's about 3 points. That's pretty good. So we see that breakthrough, but now you're going to be overbought still. So we want to be a little patient. Maybe we want to touch into the zone again before we go, unless that momentum is just going to take over. We're going to see this thing do something crazy. The other thing that I was paying attention to this morning was, which one was it? I literally had it 2 seconds ago. Oh yeah, volatility. That's what I wanted to go over. Volatility. So the reason we're not going to see that volatility come in is because, well, we're not getting this confirmation of this 2-hour that we've been talking about. You're not getting that confirmation. You see it trying to turn up. You see the potential here for some kind of pullback. So just be a little cautious if this starts to confirm, because we could see some volatility come back in. But remember, that could subside over time as some kind of pullback in the overall stock market. Now, one thing, too, about the dollar was we're starting to see it try to base out at this level. We could see some kind of reaction back up to 105.65 for some kind of retest. This little box right in here could be very important. So if we're going to see an upward move from the dollar, we could go up. And if that's going to hold true with the correlation, then that would be dollar up, okay, stocks down. All right, that would make total sense. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on this morning, as we bounce around before the open, we got 5 minutes till that, was gold. This is gold. We told you about this setup. It looked pretty good on a 30-minute, a 1-hour, and a 2-hour. 2-hour starting to see a big pop here. So we could get a reaction from gold all the way up to maybe 217.15 before we want to see some resistance come in. So I think 217.15, good level to pay attention to. Might even mark it off for a brief moment here. Something right up in this area. So we don't have to be perfect. We just need to know, hey, once I get towards that line, might be a little cautious going forward because there could be some kind of pullback here. But right now, 215.60, that's a good solid almost $3 move already this morning. Third time streamers, anything with Netflix. So Netflix, we haven't really looked at too much, but overall, this is starting to try to base out right where we expected. So if you remember a long time ago, we actually did mark off this for 543.33. Very important level to keep to the bull side, okay? Very important level to keep. And now you have the 2-hour able to go positive here. So what did we see down here at the bottom? Well, if you're paying attention to the level that we marked off for you, you'd see some little divergences in here. We'd get close to the center line. Okay, you see that right in here. We have a big double bottom, significant divergence. Boom, that sees an upward tick. Where do you expect that resistance? Right now. You expect that resistance right now. Just to be honest, it looks like there could be some resistance right here. Maybe we pull back a little, right? Cup and handle this thing. Because the first time we tried to do cup and handle, I would say this is a failure. And now we fill that cup again. Are we going to get a failure, or are we just going to get some kind of pullback? I'm leaning towards a little 30-minute pullback across the board here. Doesn't mean that the daily momentum can't take over. I just want you to keep that in mind. But as of right now, it looks like we need like some pullbacks across the board. And we do have a few earnings coming out after hours today, so we can pay attention to that. I believe Palantir has earnings. Now remember, this is a 50-50 flip. All right, so the fact that you're getting really excited before the earnings, not necessarily the right move yet. We don't know which way is the right move because it's a 50-50 flip. It's earnings. They could produce good numbers. They could produce bad numbers. They could produce good numbers and announce something bad. They could produce bad numbers and announce something good, like Tesla or something like that. So this move right here is actually kind of maybe a bait for the bull trap, but you don't know that until you get the numbers. So we can flip the coin or something like that by the end of the day, or by the end of the stream. Towards the end of the stream, we'll flip the magical coin. Let's see if the coin's getting it right. Is Tesla seeing a bounce? Is Tesla seeing a bounce? Tesla's seeing a bounce. So the coin, as of right now, getting it pretty right. I mean, we're getting that hourly to turn up. We can see if that gets a big move here. Now, I think this at least, we probably need at least like, what, a 4.5 point move for the coin to be 100% right. I think if it takes out these highs, we'll count that as a win, right? If it gets up towards like even 185 or 186, we're going to count that as a win if it's able to take out these highs. 25 cents. Yeah, we use a coin during during earnings because if you guys are going to 50-50 flip it, well, then we'll just actually 50-50 flip it. You know what I mean? Palantir will have an amazing earnings, but go down 20 a share. And see, that's what I'm talking. It's like we don't know. We don't know. Like that's anybody who tells you they know, they better have insider info or something like that. So as of right now, the thing you need to pay attention to, that's more important than Palantir earnings, is where is the SPY going to be at when this releases? Well, the SPY could create a 15-minute divergence and be in the middle of a pullback. And does that just reverse everything around and get really bullish for everything with some kind of statement? Or does that pull us back for a little bit of time and then we end the week, you know, scooping up and going a little bit higher? Right now you have a series of higher highs, right? Higher highs and lower high or higher lows, right? Higher lows again. So the fact that we pull down to here, if that's going to continue, well, we're going to see this curl up positive territory. But for now, with the upward move this morning, you'd say, hey, I just want to pay attention to any kind of downside because this thing's getting a little cooked. Now, during a squeeze, that can happen a lot. So you really just want to keep your eye on this 15-minute. You can see minor little pullbacks and then see that pop back up. So the fact that we're breaking out of this zone, good sign. Now we might want to touch back in it in order to head higher. And we do get some earnings after hours today. Now, as we open up, we do open up a little bit higher. We can pay attention to those daily expected moves. Those daily expected moves being 515.03 and 507.55. Still big ranges, so volatility can come back in. We have big ranges here. We have big ranges here. So we have to pay attention to that. Oh God, I wish I could read that. But Young, thank you so much for subscribing. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining and welcome to the boat. Right, we're on the stream. We're going down the stream. We're trying to figure out which way these rocks are trying to send us in order to go down into the meadow. So welcome to the boat. We're going to watch that VIX. Yeah, VIX is going to be very important. Let's look at the Dow for a second too. In the Dow, you can see it's just overextended again. Now this is a shorter time frame. It's a 15 minutes. So what can happen? Well, those dailies can really start to take over, guys. So if you look at the daily, it's crossed. That can really start to take over. You can start to spread out these Bollinger Bands without any structure or anything like that. But you would say, for a trader, you would say, hey, this needs to curl down, meet up with this 5 before it wants to go up a second time. That's overall what I would say. And we could say the same thing for the SPY and the Qs, honestly. You could just kind of zoom into this a little bit and see those moving averages were well away from the shorter ones. A lot of the time, even in a big bullish move, you see some kind of reaction down to reconnect with it, and then that goes up. So we're just paying attention to that going forward today. The 15-minute looking like setting up some kind of divergence on the RSI maybe, but not on the MACD at the same time. So I would be leaning towards a pullback even if this move actually does end up fading. Alrighty. And we're just keeping our eye on everything, but this would be a good place to see some kind of pullback. Alrighty. Now, I am the only play that I'm really in right now. I have one still, Microsoft going up. Remember, if Microsoft hits a certain level here, I'll probably be out. And if I start to see this fade, I might just take the rest out because this is a pretty good profit here. And I can see some kind of pullback coming. So I might very well get out of this at this moment and just see if we can make some kind of upward move after we get some kind of pullback and I can be back in. I kind of want to be in it for the reload and then see the reload happen. I think once the reload really happens on a 30-minute curling down, then we can see another big move higher, really confirming like, right, this is a low, this is a slightly higher low. I would really like this to pull down to give us like some kind of significant high, or higher low. Eye on this guy too. We're coming up into a point where you can see that resistance come in. And remember, this isn't a range or anything like that. I'll change it to white so you guys know that. That's not a range or anything like that. That's just where I expect gold wants to get to, right? Something like 217. That would make a lot of sense. So if we can get to 217, that'd be pretty solid. But gold very, very overbought on the 15-minute. The thing is, I'm trying to move quick in this market here, so I will probably just be out of this move. Trying to kind of play this like, hey, ride the wave and then let it base out. Ride the wave, let it base out. Ride the wave, let it base out. That's kind of my overall theory with what's going to go on over the next week or two. So I just rode the wave. Now I can see, hey, some kind of significant pullback. We see gold is making a move higher as the market moves higher. So if the market experiences weakness, will gold experience weakness? It very well could. So I'm going to pull that and say there's going to be some kind of pullback unless that daily momentum takes over, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not overexposed or anything to, I just have a hedge in place to the downside, and then I'm still using that Microsoft play. I'm probably going to get out of this actually right now. So. All right. All right, we'll get out of that. Because it's not that I'm not bullish from this area. It's not that I don't think we can squeeze, but I know that pullbacks happen. And so I'm going to be very weary. Why? Well, this 15-minute on the VIX, very, very close to positive territory. Very, very close to curling up. This would be a moment for it to come back in. And then that might curl up this 2 hour and we might see a little bit bigger pullback, right? We might get some kind of pullback. In the overall stock market, the SPY, right? Now that we're up at this level, we could see a little, 2% pullback or something like that. So I want to see if we can come down to this level. I want to see if we can come all the way down to this level. This would make total sense as well. So you could see a 2% pullback that really freaks people out. And then that's just a reload and then it heads higher. I'm not saying that has to happen. The other thing you have to pay attention to here is those divergences on the 2 hour we saw on NVDA is telling you it has the opportunity to reverse the trend still. So I still have to be open to this kind of scenario, right? I still have to be open to this, but it doesn't mean I have to take the trades. I can just watch it perform itself in front of me and then pay attention to when it curls down, crosses through this level. Well, then we could see something dramatic. Is that probable? No, because your weekly range is right here. So it's not really probable to see that this week, but if we see some crazy price action up and then we see it come falling down at the end of the week, well, then we can talk about it. As of right now, paying attention to the 30-minute, that thing crosses down. You probably got yourself some kind of pullback. That's why I'm a little worried going into Palantir earnings. Alrighty, so we've scaled into a solid hedge, and now we're chilling. We are chilling. We're not risking much, anything like that. We're just chilling. Let's. I'm gonna click through on my left screen while you guys are watching the SPY over here. I'm just gonna click through and see if we're having any reactions to any weekly expected moves. That way, I can post some stuff to Patreon in a little bit, right? So if you're part of Patreon, I do make some posts and things like that. I do make some posts that have been proven to be pretty good, right? One of those posts was Microsoft. One of those was Microsoft showing you that 30-minute, that 2 hour divergence. You see the little 30-minute one here. If you wanted that entry, that's where I took it. And then boom, I ride this wave up. I take profit here. Boom, I ride this wave up. And now I just took profit here. So everything looking pretty good. AMD, this is the other one that we were showing, and the 2-hour divergence is starting to take over. You can see this starting to cross up. Positive territory is there. Let's see here. Patricia, thank you so much for subscribing this morning. Really, really appreciate it. And hit that like button, Carlos. Thank you so much. NVIDIA attacking 900, SPY going down today. We'll have to see. A pullback is very likely here. We're a little overextended on the shorter time frames. The only thing is, right, is the daily momentum just going to take over? You have to be aware of that. Good evening, Tittlespark. Here's if you think fear has kind of died in markets. Well, so one thing you can see if fear is dying out in the markets is you look at volatility. All right, you look at volatility, boom, this is technically a fear indication. And you would say anytime we're down towards 1212, the reason we get reactions towards 1212 is because that's when the fear is just gone. Okay, so if you go back, and we go back, what did we say around this area? Well, this is where we crossed through. So right here is where we said, hey, the potential for a short squeeze is high, and we're probably going to end up down towards 1212. And then boom, we see that squeeze come in, and we go down towards 1212. And you notice we only hang out there for like 4 days. All right, 4 days. Now, the last time we were there was a while back. It was a while back, okay? So we want to go all the way back to when we were at 1212. And you'll notice this. Sometimes you get wonky behavior. But overall, when you get to 1212, about 4 days there, boom, pop. We touch it, about 4 days there, boom, pop. We touch it, and then we have about, 2 weeks here, and then pop. And then here we have about a week and a half pop. And then here we have 4 touches and pop. So you have to pay attention to that. M. Wong, thank you so much for subscribing. A lot of subscribers coming in, guys. Make sure to keep smashing that like button. We could use some more people on our boat as we try to figure out which way the market wants to go, which way that stream is going. But I just want you to be aware of 1212 is really something you can mark off and be like, okay, that is where you know that the fear is really sucked out of the market. Yeah, exactly. And you even have big investors actually coming out, big people that people pay attention to. Can't remember his name right now, but the guy that called for like 5,200 on the spot on the SPX was talking, and he was like, yeah, inflation's going to come way down. Inflation's going to come way down. And I was like, ooh, interesting, because the signals we are seeing add up to some kind of crash, especially, I mean, we're on volatility. We might as well talk about it further before we go look back at charts, at stocks. Yeah, Tom Lee. And that kind of worries me a little, but it could mean we're going to see a few weeks of positivity. Remember, we can hang out by 1212 for a little bit. So what if we see a few weeks of positivity, we see some good inflation data, and then something bad happens later on? Just know on the weekly scale, you're getting tight, right? We saw one breakout. Now we're breaking back in, so we're playing back into this. Okay, well, what if this just does this for a few weeks and then curls back up? Look at that big divergence. Remember, the big divergence over here was where we were like, this is a crash signal itself. Now we're even closer to that center line with a triple divergence. One of the strongest reversal signals is a triple divergence, and on a weekly scale, that's scary. So you have to be fearful once this actually does confirm. And I truly believe it will. If it doesn't, I'm still playing the price action, right? I'm not trading based on a theory. I'm trading based on the price action. It really helps me out to pay attention to these scenarios, though, because this could be some kind of major crash at this point. So this is where I'm really going to start talking about and probably going over in a Saturday video, which those Saturday videos, guys, they're very, very helpful to you. You should keep the macro side in mind. But that would be the signal I'm looking for. And what would happen at the same time? Remember, we look for something at the same time. We don't just want to see something on the VIX or something like that and just read straight into it. But if you look at this weekly, what does it look like? Well, this could curl up for a few weeks. What would that do? It would create the opposite signal than the VIX, which tells you, hey, I got to pay attention if there's weakness here and that crosses over, because that volatility looks like it can really ramp up. And then boom, we head to lower levels by, say, even the end of the month, we close back into this area or something like that. That would be very, very bearish. So we're paying attention. It looks like something really bad's around the corner. I was saying that in my Saturday video. It really does look like something really bad is actually right around the corner, just like we said here. We're like, something bad's around the corner. Okay, it drops off. Now we're like, all right, we're able to buy back up. So now it's doing this. What can we read into? We can look at the scenarios and say, uh-oh, now it looks like something bad's around the corner if we end up going up to this level. So it looks like we could get some kind of reaction up. That would cause the volatility to drop, give you some kind of divergence this way, while this gives you the divergence that way. So we're paying attention to both at this point. And if they do confirm, we will react. That's how we treat it. If it doesn't confirm, then we will react to other things. Selling my Palantir. That's the thing about Palantir, guys. By the way, you want to talk about this today, Palantir. If you took calls, like, and you say you want to hold for earnings, and you took calls at this point, or maybe you took calls at this curl up or something like that, you took calls way down here, and you've held that for a few weeks. Look where it's at now. I mean, look where it's at now. It's up almost 10% from this level down here. So you gotta pay attention. You're getting a big move before earnings. If you made money here, you don't even have to play earnings. You already made your money. You want some help? Yeah, let me help her real quick. They're going out grocery shopping. I'll be right back. All right, I'll put you guys on the spy for a moment. Okay. Grab her the keys and stuff. All right, look, we're seeing that upward move. We're touching the top of the channel, so this is a good point to pay attention to. I'll be right back in like 2 minutes. And we're back. We are back. Ooh, we got some subscribers coming in. M. Wong subscribing as well. Look at all these subscribers coming in. Good job. Welcome to the channel, guys. Hopefully you guys are finding something helpful here. Hopefully you guys are dedicated to learning. And because we're always learning new stuff. All right, let's take this Ranges Patreon and my courses link in the description down. Remember, just today, guys, for that 149, there were some people that were saying they had some questions about it, but I haven't seen them trickle in just yet. Tesla coin flip looking like another win. I know, it just keeps doing. Look, it beat the point. All right, so that's a win. If you get it, like we said, coin flip. Where did we call the coin flip? Pretty much like at the right before the. Let's see, right around here. 11:30, 10:30. I think it was right here that the coin flip was made. Pretty much right at 180. Now you're at 186. That's a win. That's a win there. Just remember, guys, as this goes up, you got to pay attention to any kind of divergences that are forming, but this is a good move. There you go. All right, we'll mark it down. We'll mark it for the coin. All right, we're calling that a W. Yeah, the coin's win percentage right now is 100%. It's 2 for 2, guys. Shouldn't have put product in my hair. I look greasy. 2 for 2. 2 for 2. Look at my drawings still. Oh god, look at that. So this is the hourly that I was pointing out. Pretty much saying like, hey, this could have some kind of pullback. The 30 minutes showing that a little bit as well, right? We're seeing that on the 30 minutes. So we can pay attention to a 30 minute. If you see this drop off, we could get something to fall down from here. Now, what if we do something like this? Well, then we can add up to something, right? We can see left head, right shoulder form. So just be cautious. when you do have the divergences at the same time, it is more likely to see a reversal in trend. So you just want to really be paying attention here. If we start to curl back up, okay, that reversal in trend most likely isn't happening, unless that's going to be like curl down, curl back up, cross again, right? We're always flipping back and forth. Being a flip-flopper in politics, not the best thing. Being a flip-flopper in trading, very, very good. All hail the trade like water laundry coin. Yes. Who knew that a coin that was just on the floor after I was washing my underwear has so much power? My goodness. I will call him George. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, history and stuff is my worst. I have no idea who that is. That's not George, isn't it? What price point do you think NVIDIA will close at tonight? Oh, let me tell you exactly what a stock is going to do today, guys. No, it's impossible. You guys, it's impossible to know. Here's what I would say. I would say most likely by end of day, you find a point where you're going to fade that move. It could be right now. I would say right now would be a time for a pullback because, you know, we just gave the structure down. The structure up, well, look at this right over here. Okay, we got a big source of liquidity. We're right at a point where that resistance could come in left, down here, big head down here, and then we get that right shoulder. So there is a way up and a way down. You just have to be able to see those scenarios and see how they're going to play out. Washington, whoo! History and geography and biology, like anything that's memorization, terrible at. My ADHD brain is like, I forget like what my wife tells me in 5 minutes, and it frustrates the hell out of her, but it makes her laugh, so that's good. But yeah, I'm not someone you want to be like, hey, remember the codes, and I'll be like, and you'll be like, yeah, and then I'll be like, you got it, I'm remembering the codes, and then they're like, well, what's the code? And I was like, you said it already? Want to buy a QQQ? Well, QQQ, it can head all the way up towards 439.77. Just remember that. It can head up towards 439.77. If you wanted to see this on a 15-minute or something like that, okay, we could look at this for a moment and just say, okay, we still have room to curl up. Now we're getting very overbought. We're about to hit the top of the channel that we're in. You can also consider that a bearish flag, right? But as of right now, what are we seeing? Well, it could come up and test this level. We could even see a big reaction all the way up to 439.77 and then see that drop off. Right now you have divergence on the RSI that hasn't completed yet, right? Hasn't even turned down. Usually if you want this to complete, you got to see that actually make a firm crossing down, and then you'll see the MACD follow shortly after. But this is where you can start to add up and say, okay, this is, if we get excited and get up to there, the pullback's probably coming. But just know, this pullback from here, even if we got all the way up here, 439.80, something like that, you could just pull back down to where we started, 435. It could just be a 4-point move, and then you see that start to build back up. So we'll read into it here, and the reason that we'll read into a little bit more dramatic pullback is just because of the volatility on the 2-hour. You can see it starting to get some pink bars down here telling you, hey, I might cross from here, so I could see some kind of pop. And we just want to be aware of that, especially when we do have earnings and things like that. But that could just totally be invalidated, by the way, by the earnings, right? Earnings could come out good, and then that's just done. So that's something you can pay attention to. As of right now, SPY making a good upward move. Okay, that's all we could say from here. SPY is making a good upward move. If the 15-minute can cross back down, then we have the chance for some kind of pullback, as we are seeing some flatness on the RSI and some divergence forming here on the MACD. So hopefully that does help out a little bit. You know, that's all we're trying to do, is really just help out a little bit and always be looking for the next move and teach you guys how to form these scenarios in your head and things like that. You got to form these scenarios. That's why in part of the course we go over patterns and things like that a little bit, and we're just like, draw your ideas. No idea is a bad idea as long as it makes sense. You have to, you know, have 3 points. You have to do all that kind of stuff. But that's what I would say. You just draw your ideas and make sure to really have the scenario in mind where you could get hurt by a trade or get really helped by a trade. Theory on Google here. Remember Google, this is one that also on the hourly, we just wanted to see if that curled up. Guess what? It was a little wonky, but it did. It curled up. So what could happen here? It's got a lot of room left on this RSI. Google could just see some kind of run here. It really could. And that's why I'm paying attention to my weekly expected moves. The weekly expected moves for Google, pretty good range, right? And you can get that in the link in the description on Patreon, but that'll really help you out. So this right here just looks like, yeah, we could see some kind of business going on here. And we'll have to find out, is that going to create some kind of divergence, or is this going to fade early on or something like that? Maybe we look into a 15-minute and we just see, hey, the 15 minutes kind of cooked. It's breaking through. It's going up to an important point again. We keep coming up to this point. I would say you don't want this handle to be as steep like this one again or something. You really want that to just slowly build up for a second like this. This would be pretty solid. Look, what does that allow us to do? Well, it allows us to complete the more important cup. The more important cup's all the way up towards 175. This is a much more important cup to complete. See a bigger handle in here, and then you see that next move higher. So we can be patient. There's divergence on the 15-minute QQQ. Yeah, I think you're seeing the same thing as me. That's good. Good eyes. We like to see it. That's your divergence there on the RSI. And if you want to count it on the MACD, it hasn't curled up yet, but rejection can be just as good. What the fuck is NVIDIA doing? NVIDIA's getting that reaction, okay? It's getting a reaction up, and remember, it doesn't have to pull back or anything like that. Now, these things, this is why you want to wait till they confirm. They can be fake outs and things like that. I didn't take this play. I'm not taking any downside. I know this could be a squeeze. That's why I said over on Patreon, don't get it twisted. When I say to hedge, that does not mean short, short, short. When I say to hedge, it means you still have longs because that squeeze can come in, but you just want to hedge a little bit just in case. I only had a few $100s as a hedge here. So what could I see happening? Well, we're still getting that squeeze up. Now we're coming up into the area where that resistance can come in, anywhere in this zone. But you have to say, what if that just doesn't come? All right, then that might drop off. And the other thing is you still have 30-minute divergence even at these highs if that's given up. So we'll have to see, but it looks like that momentum's taking over. AMD momentum's taking over. Let's take a look at gold. Remember, gold's something that I just took profit on. Hey, it's starting to fade at that point too. So we'll pay attention to that going forward. We're paying attention to other things too. We got to pay attention to what is TLT doing right now. Well, TLT's looking more like it wants to pull back like we're talking about while things are going higher. So TLT actually looks like it wants to pull back from here a little bit more so than the actual market. So something like this is very possible. If the market follows suit, then that would be a not so good thing. And we see HYG actually making that upward move. So HYG kind of confirming it at this point. So even the smart money, not necessarily in agreement here, but you can see how at this point, the momentum here is pretty weak. And now we probably do need some kind of pullback. Now, you can still see crazy things in the market once you get to these squeeze points. You can still see crazy things. That's why you're probably going to see that thing on NVIDIA. And then right when you think like, damn, this thing's not going to come down and you're convinced to FOMO into it, it's going to pull back. Amazon and Amazon's flipping. Okay, see, so Amazon's making that downward move. Let's see if the 30 minutes able to cross. It was, and the 30-minute on the RSI, we talked about this over the weekend a little bit. You have divergence along here, right? We have divergence along here. And this can be a big deal. We can start to build down towards the center line and then scoop back up. Now we want to see, is this going to be a low, a higher low, and then do we get some kind of higher low over in this area somewhere? I think that would be very, very good for Amazon. Meta coming up above 453.08. It's kind of peaking above saying, I want to do it, but I do have triple divergence, triple flat divergence on the RSI. Some kind of pullback here would be, it would make a lot of sense, but it doesn't have to happen. I'm just saying this is how you would actually take a trade with this. I would not take a trade with this one. I would just look for a different stock, right? So if a stock looks like this and looks like this, I'm not getting into that move, right? Unless I'm seeing something on the daily that I can get behind on momentum or something. Right now, I'm like, no entry. All right, this would be more of an entry at that point, get some kind of breakout to actually head higher. So I'm not saying we can't continue to go up. I'm just saying as a trader, there's no reason for me to take new positions at this point. Microsoft's starting to fade that move. This is something I just got out of, actually. I am out of this move because I'm pretty convinced we're going to see some kind of pullback. Does that mean I'm shorting this? No. No, it doesn't. I'm not shorting anything. I just have my hedge with a volatility play, and that's it. And what are we seeing from volatility? Volatility still being green, but still could pop down on this 30 minutes. So don't think we can't go higher. We still could create that divergence here before we see a pop in volatility. We could not even get a pop in volatility. It's really not there as of right now. But something on volatility, 15 minutes, still close to the center line. So if we see a pop in volatility at any time, I think that's the moment that we actually start to see a pullback. All right, let's click through a few of these. The Dow, what's that doing? Well, it's starting to fade the move. All right, IWM, what is that doing? Oh, well, it's heading higher, creating some divergence points up here. Outside of the zone, very, very good. But this is a great move. It really is. You have the completion of the cup. Got a little excited here. So if that didn't get so excited and we got a deeper handle into this area, close this gap, then I think this actually would be a sustainable move. But now you're like a little bit worried. If I look on a 15-minute, it's going to look very, very ugly. So IWM here, remember this was added to the Patreon as well. So you have weekly ranges for this. So I could even go look at a weekly range, right? Because I'm a part of Patreon, right? I'm a part of Patreon. So I'm going to go look at that weekly range. And we're not there, right? We're not there. We still have room. Okay, so that just tells me if I see a signal here, well, there could be a pullback, and then I head towards that towards the end of the week. We'll see. So the SPY coming up into a point, creating divergences. Remember, we're seeing some weakness in, we're seeing Dow start to fade it. So SPY really making an upward move here. Q's doing the similar thing. Not able to get the confirmation with the curling of the MACD up here, but a rejection from here would be likely. Apple really starting to turn down. This makes total sense. Right, Apple starting to curl down. What do we like to do? We talked about this over the weekend. When we break through an important zone, well, first of all, it's nice. We gravitated to our next one. That was very cool. So if you have these zones marked off, good for you, taking profit up at that level. Now, what do we see? And this starts to dip down. What could happen? Well, we break through a zone, we test in the top of it, and then we break through to the upside. Now, sometimes you'll hear me say I'm leaning towards a test of the bottom like NVIDIA, and that actually happened. That's just because that's what the signals were looking like to me. At this point, it just looks like, what if we just get something brief in the middle to top, and then we see that next explosive move higher to get in this zone? That's what I would pay attention to. Tesla, big win for the coin. Big win for the coin. Look at that thing starting to turn up. Notice the 30-minute actually going positive. I can't remember who did the trade, but very, very good patience on this. Someone was short on this. They see this pop. They looked at the MACD. They said, this thing is not positive yet. So until that's positive, I don't have to get out of my shorts. That's perfectly fine thinking. All right, boom. Then we start to turn back down. Then they take profit. Now that move goes above the center line. No reason to really take any short play at this point because you're getting that confirmation on the hourly. Amazon, yes, this is starting to try to turn down. It is starting to try to turn down, but look how tight it is, though, still in this flagging here. So we do have the opportunity to head higher, even though it looks like a pullback is the most likely scenario. We have to be open to, if this just curls back up, positive territory, another positive move. We should not be getting excited, taking any big plays for some downside. NVIDIA making another huge move up. That's perfectly fine. Remember that momentum on the bigger time frames will take over, and now we don't even have a 15-minute divergence here. Now, you still probably have like a 1 hour or something like that. Look at that. We still have a 1 hour, so we can pay attention to these things. Just know this is a bullish time. So now you really just want to see 30 minutes building towards the center line and then curling up, and that'll be your sign. Oh, we're heading higher from here. AMD still showing that strength come in, about almost 5 points total for the day here, up 3%. Very, very good move. This is a play that I was in. Unfortunately, I got out on Friday. I didn't want something bad to happen over the weekend. I made plenty of money on Friday, so I'm not trying to do anything crazy, right? I'm not trying to do anything crazy. I'm just trying to make my good, steady money. The slow way is the fast way. Slow way is the fast way. Say that to yourself every single morning. You'll probably be a better trader. Now, something in this, remember, Meta, it looks like we do have some divergence here, not necessarily the most significant, right? So we would say this is leaning towards some kind of pullback at this point. But that pullback would cause us to lose 453.08. So we'll be aware of everything. Microsoft, this thing, yeah, look at that. It's starting to fade the move. So you're looking at NVIDIA looking like Microsoft up here. Well, what if that starts to fade? We'll see. Doesn't have to. But if this curls down, where would we look for it? Well, that gap fill looks pretty good. I can pay attention to my weekly ranges on Patreon. Now, Google this here, curling down. What if it curls down into negative territory? You do have a shot to take out this, go a little bit lower, paying attention to my weekly range. But truly, you're just kind of stuck moving sideways, and you want to see a confirmed break out, confirmed break down, and then you can see that move. Right now, you're compiling up. So what I would say is going to happen with Google, the most likely scenario, we get one more dip down, and then I think we start to explode higher going into Wednesday or something like that. That would just be my hip fire. I think that will happen, but that doesn't mean it's going to, right? Doesn't mean it's going to. We got to pay attention, but right now you're seeing Netflix, little 30-minute divergence in the RSI, little 30-minute divergence on the MACD. So if that can confirm we see that fade right now, you might get a point where we want to retest into this area, and then it's just going to retest maybe even something like 566. And it also might be brief. Remember, we can just slowly build down like this, get close to that center line, and see that next curl up. So that's really all you want to pay attention to is the MACD in this scenario. SMCI, let's go take a look at that, seeing another upward move. The thing about this move is I already know from looking at it, 15-minute divergence looks likely, and you're very close to negative territory still, and this looks very flaggy. That's why I was saying that. Now, you're not necessarily seeing that on the RSI at the same time, so this could most likely be a pullback, right? We would say this would be a pullback. What do? We burst through a zone, we test the top of it, we go up a little higher. Now, we hit this zone, so some resistance can come in. What if we do something like that? That would make a lot of sense here. Palo Alto, we haven't looked at this in a little bit. The thing with Palo Alto, I was just noticing, it's kind of in a channel here, just kind of a messy channel. But as of right now, if you're saying, this channel means something, well, you're towards the top side of it. Some kind of basing out before we see a bigger move could be good in this scenario. So that's what we'll pay attention to going forward. Let's go look at Palantir real quick. PLTR. Alrighty. Big move. Remember, this is before the earnings comes out. You have to be weary about moves like this before earnings. Now, I didn't make a range for this, dang it. But I think someone did message me asking for a range, but baby girl's going through a big old leap. She's starting to need to be entertained more, and I'm the entertaining one, if you can believe it or not. So, oh my goodness. So, I have to dance around and play with little bears and toys for an hour. And it's tiring, guys. So, Palantir, though, we don't really have a weekly range. If you want to make a weekly range for this, you could probably try to do it on Robinhood at this point, right? It's going to be wonky because you're not taking it from the close. But as of right now, it probably looks like there's a big move, and you're already up 6.39%. It's a very, very big move. I would just be weary about that going into earnings. And if I was to the call side, I'd be major happy about this because this is my out. Even if this is going to explode and go to, $27 or something like that, it's like, well, this is my out. This is your risk out, right? So because you're call side and you see this big move, okay, boom, I just made a bunch of money before the earnings even happen. I don't even have to play this anymore, right? I don't even need to mess around with this. I made money. All right, cool. I can just sit and watch the fireworks. That's how I would treat it. And then you just don't get bummed out by whatever move it makes. That's a big thing. Don't get bummed out if you're like, oh, I could have made so much more. No, did you make money? Yes or no? Okay, you did better than 90% of the people in the market right now. We're watching volatility still. 15 minutes, see if that can curl up. I think that'll be a good sign, but we still need the 2-hour divergences to confirm down here, right? You can see them on the RSI, just that flatness of divergence down there, and then you see the multiple point on the MACD here. So we're paying attention to this going forward. And maybe we need to change around some lines, right? Maybe we need to change our thinking a little bit and say, hey, maybe it's something more like this, and we don't have this actual trajectory at this point. Maybe it's something like this here, right? We're drawing our ideas. We can see what's happening here. Okay, boom, it's getting pretty tight. Now, if this is proven to be right, then we're going to see that 2-hour get some kind of pop here. We'll have to see if that's going to come. As stocks get overextended on the shorter time frames, it's possible. You just don't want that daily momentum to really take over. So right now you have daily momentum kind of taking over. If that 5 crosses the 20, you're going to top Bollinger. But 15-minute, very, very good to watch at this point for some kind of pullback. We have a few gaps below us. This is a moment to pay attention to for a pullback, and I would not, I'm not going to let the market FOMO me into anything. Good morning, JS. Trying to decide if I want to hold for earnings. I would say this. Sell enough so you break even if you have some. That would be a very, very good thing to do. Something that's very good to do if you see a big upward move and you have something very volatile the next day and it's good for you to sell today. Well, if you really want to play around with things, why not play with house money, right? Once you get a win, why don't you just break even on it and then see what happens? That's what I would do. I would just be like, all right, if I want to see what happens, but also I would look at how much I made. If I made, even $2,000 or $3,000 off the trade already, then I'd just be like, I'm good. I'm good. It's a Monday and you make $2,000. I'm good. I'm good. I'm chilling. I don't need to make 15, 20 grand. I can make 2 and just be happy because guess what? Now I have no risk going into the next day. BCC 2.35. So many people shorting. Really? Oh my God. Yeah, that is not. I've never seen something like this, guys. What the? You guys, I've never seen something like this. That's strange. Wait, when? Okay, so the last time we saw a huge spike like this was Monday, February 2010. Okay. What happened February 2010 for the SPY? Let's go do that real quick. That is psychotic. What the? I've never seen something like that. February 2010. What did I say? It was like the 3rd or something like that. April. I said February, right? February 8th, 2010 was this bar here. It was actually a bullish sign that we're going to see some kind of big squeeze. Oh, no. All right, the pullback might not be coming if everyone's going short here. What the hell? Everyone went short. This thing could squeeze all day. What the hell's going on? Yo, that's kind of nuts. That's actually kind of nuts. I actually don't know how to read into that too much. That's usually a sign that we see some kind of significant drop when you cross through. But we already did the cross through and didn't see the significant drop. Now all of those people can go underwater. So I'm glad I don't have a big hedge or anything like that. I'm going to keep it and I'm going to watch this play out at this point. But we'll see if that changes by end of day. If who brought that up? Who brought that up? King Alfred, the Chad. If you could keep your eye on that for us just a little bit and comment back to us when that starts to get back below, if you can mark off on your chart there, back below 1.41, let me know. Keep your eye on it for us, but that's a lot of shorts. What the? Thank you, King Alfred. That massive short is by design to squeeze the market. Okay, so that could be it as well. But maybe that just means... Maybe that means all the calls are bought at this point. I don't know. Maybe they're just... I don't know. That's so crazy. I've never seen behavior like that. I'm going to have to look into that. Right, we've only seen it one previous time, and that was 2010. But that led to a massive squeeze. So we can even go look at, how big that squeeze was back in 2010 after that signal, that massive amount of put volume coming into the market. Let's go all the way back here to 2010, right? That's April. Here is July, April, May. Hold on, I'm not getting this right. September, October 2010. February 8th. All right, so right here was where that started to take place. This is the week that signal confirmed, right? February 8th. Let's see how high up we went from there. Well, the last time we saw the signal, we saw a 10 to 12% run up. Wow. But we were at lower levels at that point. Right now we're at higher levels. I would assume that means we're not going to squeeze that hard. 12% up would be a lot. But, I mean, if you really think about it, if that's confirming this week and say it confirms as of right now, since we just saw it, okay, let's do 12% up. Yeah, I don't think so. I think the highest you get is that I would say 550. 550 allows you to get outside of this, but if you get that outside of it, that's a little worrisome there. I wouldn't think that that's going to really start to take place. But there is that bearish sentiment. If you want to take it that way, there's bearish sentiment. So if we do see selling, we could see that. Would that be bullish for IWM as well? I mean, you would assume small caps are going to squeeze as well with that. Now, be careful, IWM showing this stuff. Even though we can't read into it too much, guys. Don't just pay attention to the signals. The same exact stuff we're paying attention to. Just because you see one crazy thing like that doesn't mean you have to flip your entire thinking. If gold and oil are rising... If gold and oil are rising, it's the same environment as 2010. Okay. Makes sense. And gold, this is a great signal. This is something we were paying attention to last stream. Look at that, ripping to the upside. The only thing here is we're starting to get overbought already, so some kind of retest would be likely here, and then we can get back in. But is NVIDIA, why is the SEC trending on X? Ooh, we'll have to look up some news for us, guys. We'll have to look up some news real quick. Let's go check that out. We can put this on NVIDIA since someone was just mentioning it. This is where a pullback is likely, but we saw a big upward move when it was still likely. All right, let's go over here. Let's see why the SEC... Care about your coin, care about my coin. This was breaking. Robinhood receives a Wells notice from the SEC for their Bitcoin and crypto business. I don't know if that's really... LFA Hood gets Wells notice from staff of SEC. In other words, the SEC is taking legal action against Robinhood for possible violations of securities laws. Let's see if the SEC actually does their job. Okay, so something to look at maybe is what is Hood doing right now? Really massive pump with that. That just goes to show, guys, if you get sued or whatever, you get looked into by the SEC, it's bullish. No. It looks like that's what's it. So the SEC is investigating. The SEC is now suing Kraken, Coinbase, Uniswap, MetaMask, and now Robinhood for the crime of helping regular Americans access crypto. That's how someone's reading into it. This level of regulatory overreach has destroyed the legitimacy of the SEC and may lose the Democrats the election. Voters don't want this. I don't really want to make it political or anything like that, but fair point. Devin Nunes states that the SEC is really, really corrupt and claimed that Gary Gensler targeted Donald Trump. Now we can see, okay, well, this is all getting political now. Now we can see why Devin Nunes didn't write a letter to the SEC or FINRA regarding the naked shorts in DJT. Interesting. Let's see how DJT is doing today. Hood, you would expect some kind of volatility there. Nothing coming in. DJT sitting pretty good. Uh-oh, what's this? Hourly. This looks like maybe a coin flip. No. This is actually pretty simple. The hourly turning up into positive territory after getting some kind of triangle in here. I'd say probably something like this going on still. Okay, so continuation triangle could be forming here. Just know that upward move could be brief, but this is what you want to see another upward move. Hourly crossing up positive territory. How's Tesla doing? Tesla's starting to fade that move just a little bit. Let's go over to some 30 minutes here, see if we're crossing down. Remember, Tesla, even though that curl up happened, hey, we're going to give the win to the coin. A 6-point move is good. That's as good as the coin's going to do, you know? Now, at this point, what you want to say is 30-minute can roll negative here. It's still very close to that center line. You need a rapid upward move to really get that MACD to start curving up. NVIDIA, what are you doing? It's trying to fade the move at this moment. AMD, not really fading at this moment. Meta is trying to fade at this moment. Something to pay attention to. Probably the overall stock market. The SPY here is probably pretty important to watch. I just want to watch a... probably a 30-minute, but with you guys, I'll watch a 15-minute. I'm a little more patient and slow, but I can sit and watch the 30-minute for like hours. Thank you. ADHD and 2 screens, right? I can leave it on this screen for a long time and then watch over here. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Sorry about that. Yeah, I made 2K on video. What is fade? That means that the buying pressure is pretty much like kind of burnt out, and you're going to see some kind of gap up, right? Gaps are a good time to talk about fading. You notice how we gap up from here on a 30-minute and a 15-minute, and we immediately are overbought, like very, very high. We're up in a point where resistance can come in. We're up in a point where that's as high as we're supposed to go for the entire day. So this move has a high likelihood of fading, meaning slowly giving up all of this move, right? So giving up all of this move is pretty much what you'd talk about when you say fading. Whenever I read SMDH, I read S my D. Yeah, that's how I read it. Rare to jump and just keep pumping without any sustenance to it. And that's the point. Is kind of like if we want to really head higher from this level based on how the signals look, it looks like we want to dip down and find buyers. That's why we've overall been saying this is not the best entry even with this upward move. This isn't the best entry, and right now this isn't the best entry. Right here, the better entry would be we build down like this, we curl back up, and at the same price point, this would be a better entry than over here. So just know that now that you're seeing that upward move, okay, that can fade. That can fade. That short behavior is a little interesting, but that can fade. We'll see if it does. And then we could do this, curl back up. This is a worse place to buy than over here. And the reason for that, if you want to learn about this a little bit, the reason for that is when you go down, you scoop up new buyers, and some people still hold at these levels. So when you scoop up and get those new buyers, you're kind of with those new buyers seeing a new price, right? There's more likelihood to see an upward price. This is this could be daily taking over, but yeah, this is overall some kind of bear trap on the 5 for the day traders. Okay, so we'll see what bear trap. Bear trap. If I'm a day trader, I'm paying attention to this 5-minute divergence first of all, but bull trap. Mara's earnings are coming up, and they are just that's another time where we would say, hey, yes, this can be a big move. We talked about this zone up here, but if you just made a ton of, I mean, that's 12% a day. If you were in this and you make money before the earnings, this is a get out of jail free card. These moves higher by Palantir and Mara, these are get out of jail free cards. Being genuine about that. It's like now you don't have to play any risk if you took upside. Yeah, paracosm, that's a good way to put it. All right, looks good. Oh god, coffee. Let's go. You think Apple fills its gap by the end of the week? I don't think that happens. No, I'm gonna say it's possible. Obviously, anything's possible in the market by this week, though. I don't know if that's going to happen for you this week. But let's go check if that's even possible. Apple, no, it's not. It's not. What's going to happen with Apple the most like, unless we see something crazy, unless we see some kind of crash. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just not the most probable thing right now. The most probable thing is 30-minute curls down, 30-minute goes into this zone, 30-minute gets close to the center line, 30-minute curls up in positive territory, and we get another big move. That's the most likely scenario here. Just the probable scenario. Now, that is still possible. It's just that is not the most probable thing to happen. Right? This is not the most probable thing for this week. Now, if we did something like this and we come up to here and then we end the week down in this area, yeah, that starts to be possible. That starts to be actually probable at that point. But right now, this is the most probable thing to happen in the market. I think you dip down into this zone, you curl back up. We'll see if I'm right, you know, we'll see. But Apple is outside of its, weirdly enough, Apple's going to be wonky because of the earnings, but I think Apple's outside of its monthly expected move, or it's like right on it right now or something. Pretty interesting. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Make sure to smash that like button as you trickle in. We still got plenty of time left. Thank you guys for smashing that like button. I know we can get us to 100 likes today. We always do. We always do. We're good at it now. We're good at it now. Except for around Amazon earnings, 66 likes. That's disappointing. Dad's disappointed. Tesla really starting to fade pretty quickly here. You know, it's funny, the Qs, remember we were talking about 438, 438.28? I think I moved that towards, well, actually. That's awesome. Okay, so do you guys know how we were talking about on the Qs? 438.28 is the point where we really have to get past to get bullish. The funniest part about these moves is they're right at 438.28. Literally the high of this is 438.32 and we see resistance. So pretty great level that we picked out to pay attention to. If we see that fade from here, that's going to be a great level to pay attention to because it gives us another point of resistance. Real quick, crypto news out of the way. What stocks do you hold on to no matter what? Nothing. Nothing. I don't hold on to anything no matter what. I haven't been. The thing is, you have to think like, JS, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? Crypto, I sold out of. Crypto, I sold out of. I haven't traded crypto in a long time. I'm always worried that that thing could go away. I can make plenty of money trading stocks, but I'm a younger... Like, if I was piling up anything, it'd be like actual hard asset, like gold or something like that. Like, that's what I'd be piling up. So if I make any money, I'll be piling it into some kind of physical assets at this point. Like we're thinking of starting a big, we're pretty much, we have farmers markets and things like that. We're thinking of starting our own vegetable farm and things like that, just a little one, and then making certain things. You're 40. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm 32, and if I was going with like Warren Buffett, hold forever, I would say that does not work anymore. The volatility causes bigger shifts down and up and things like that. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not investing at lower levels and holding. It's just, I think you're better off paying, like, because I can pay attention to weekly signals and say, hey, I don't need to invest anything right now. I'm going to see a big drop. And I tell my parents to do the same thing. This is why I don't like 401k. My parents, they'll lose like 10% if they sell their, or 20% if they sell their 401k early or something like that. And it's like, okay, that's worth a bunch of money. And I told them, well, you might want to think about paying that 10% because the market, you're probably going to be worth like 30% less in the next few, like in the next year or so. And that was back in 2021. And guess what? Then they're all freaking out at the lows going, oh crap, now I've lost like half of my 401k. And I go, well, you could have just been out of that and bought back in. Yeah, so I like passive income. I like getting, I like having pretty much something that is always trickling in money. That way I can still trade and do things like that, but I can also use the trickling in money to then reinvest into actual assets, hard assets. Like my goal is to, now that I've moved, My goal is to keep stacking up, buy a little house, keep stacking up, use the house to buy maybe some land, and then we're going to talk about growing some stuff. My dad owns a garlic farm, things like that too. Google going down. It's yelling timber. So yeah, like we have a garlic farm and things like that too. That I think there's more value in stuff like that than even the dollar right now. I genuinely believe that. Like me and my brother is an MLO. So we were talking about it. Dividends are good too. Yeah, so I have dividend ones I pay attention to, but they're cash flow dividends. So JS, if you wanna see one that I've done before, it's QILD. What I'll do is like I'll look at this on a daily scale. Whenever that thing goes down, you see it goes down in the crashes and things like that. It goes down in 2022 all the way down to here. Whenever that hits a level of about anywhere from 14 to 16, I just buy, and then I hold that for a few months, allow it to produce some cash flow, and then I just sell out of it. I know that's like a weird strategy, but it's something that I've done. I've had friends that do this. They're like, man, I just need a little extra cash. I'm like, do you have like anything in your bank account? My friend was like, well, I got like 10 grand or something like that. He goes, but stuff's starting to pull up, or he's like, I only have $1,000. I'm like, well, how much would, just building this over time help you out? And he can start like that. But another friend was like, I need some cash flow. And I was like, okay, just do this for a few months. I was like, you don't want to hold it probably for like 5 years, even though you can really start to pile it up, but you just have points where you can like make a quick little, like 1% a month for like 6 months if you need cash flow. I just thought that was a cool option. But yeah, farming, food, you got to think like we're about to go into a time where we could see the whole like world totally flipped over if we start to do things with the dollar. And this is what me and my brother were talking about. We were like, okay, but if we don't do that, what happens? And I go, well, if we don't do that, then the problem continues, and eventually 1,000 square foot house is going to cost $1 million. We're already seeing that actually in some places. We're seeing, my wife was talking about Jersey, and she was like, yeah, you try to get a house there. Her friend got approved for like $200,000. There was not one house on the market for $200,000. It was 800 square feet, was $325,000. And I'm like, well, that can't continue forever. If it does, then buying things like gold and having a farm and having these things will hold value more so than stacking a bunch of cash. So I'm going to put my stuff into assets. So it's pretty much, if we allowed this to continue, we're probably going to see home prices that are, $500 a square foot, $600 a square foot, So what does that mean? Now that could take years. That could take 10, 20 years. That could take a lot of time. But if that continues, it ends up being bad. And then we have some inflation crises. So what could happen right now? Well, they could do something to disrupt the entire system. They could, but the fact that they want a digital dollar just means to me, I think they want to print more. 800K for 1,200 square feet here. Like, it's not sustainable. If it is going to sustain, it's going to get much worse, much faster. It's exponential growth. JS is a dividends guy. If you invest in the same dividends your whole life, you start out, your chart looks like this, and your dividends slightly grow it, and you do buyback, right? And then as you approach, like, say, 20 or 30 years, well, then it starts to curve up. And as you approach 10 more years from that, it starts to grow up. And then eventually it just goes like this, right? So that is what can happen to us. And I believe right now we are here. And so we are just on the verge of seeing that. And it's just going to get worse. Hi, Revlay. Can you please summarize your idea for the earning 1% a month? QILD. Look up QILD. Pretty much QILD is something, I would not hold it for a long, long time, but this is a covered call ETF. And it pays out like 1% a month. I think it has like a 11% APR or something like that. Let's go see. Let's go see the dividend payment, actually. 11.78% on the yield. So you make about 1% a month. So if you make 1% a month, if you have 10 grand and you make 1% a month, that's $100. And if you held it for a full year, at the end of the year, you'd have like almost $1,175, according to the calculation. So if you hold that for a year, you'll have like $1,100. All right, cool. Now, the next year, what do you make? Well, the next year, you would make $1,300, right? And so you just want to say, like, I want to pay attention to a time where I can really start to buy this. Okay, well, you got to be careful because these things can go away. That's why I suggest just using it as a cash flow engine for a little bit. So it's pretty much like, if I needed to get some cash flow to pay for a mortgage, what would I do? Well, I could put 80 grand or something like that into this for 3 months and then make $2,400. That's pretty much how I see it. I could make $2,400 and get a couple payments onto a mortgage if I have a small house or something like that. Now, who has $80,000 sitting around? No one. So if you wanted to treat this as something else, well, you could treat it as some kind of long-term play. I would just be cautious with it because I just want you to see the direction for it right now is down, right? Their covered calls aren't working out, but maybe those covered calls start to work out. But I would just say this is a good thing to look at, and you can find other ones like it. It's not something to throw the whole house at, but if you just want a few extra bucks to pay for your water bill, something's there. Hold silver. Yeah, and silver is one of the things that's actually pretty undervalued still, right? Still undervalued, but I think gold is going to be a good king, but silver could come in handy. It really, really could, because silver's been not necessarily reacting. I think silver hasn't been priced correctly for a while, and now we're probably seeing some of that come back in. Okay, so now we're starting to see this thing pump, right? So over the last few months or so, we see this break out, but I'm just saying I think silver should be much higher than this price point. Even on this, the ETF here, it really should bounce all the way back up, in my opinion. I think silver should probably be up much higher, and gold, right? Gold is showing like this, so you're looking at silver. Silver's still down here; it hasn't seen that massive run, and I think silver will eventually, but timing those type of things is just very, very difficult. So holding the hard asset is probably the best thing to do for a lot of these. Now, buying the hard asset now, very difficult to do. You should have been doing that over the last couple of years. And that's something you can look at too. What is someone like Bill Gates? What are the rich people doing? Well, I think it's like Bill Gates owns like $1 billion worth of farmland right now. Why would he all of a sudden buy a bunch of farmland? It's like, that's very interesting to me that someone like that just randomly decides to buy up a bunch of farmland from individual people. Very, very strange. Yeah. So you can look at that. You can look at QQQY. You can look at a lot of stuff that pays out good dividends if you just need some cash flow for a little bit of time. Intel got beat up, didn't it? I'm pretty sure Intel got beat up. Yeah, it got beat up after the earnings. Hourly now, we're close to that center line. Look for the next turnaround. That's what I would say. You got to be weary. The direction was chosen. We build up to the center line. We start to cross down, kind of like Meta. We build up to the center line. Hey, we even got above it. So the chance here for Meta actually to recover is there. A little less likely for Intel just yet. It hasn't broken through key levels. It's still sitting lower, right? So we have the potential to turn back around. And Meta has that opportunity as well. Don't think just because we took back 453 that this chart looks magical all of a sudden. It's still getting towards overbought. Now, you'd really want that to see a pump and then use it as support to head higher. The SPY. The SPY hasn't even turned over on the 15-minute. No reason to take any kind of downside just yet. What happened to sell in May and go away? Well, May is, we're May 6th. We're May 6th. So it could take a little time. I still think there's a big short squeeze here. I mean, obviously it's proving itself right now. So we were right calling the short squeeze last week. Now we're just saying, hey, the time for a pullback, even if we gap up higher, right? We said that in the video too. We were like, if we just start heading higher and going, that's fine. That's the bigger time frame momentum taking over. But what we would like to see as traders is us beat down and then curl back up. And this is still a point to pay attention to with how the VIX looks, right? How the VIX looks. Now you're getting that cross up of the 15-minute. So you could be seeing some kind of bigger pullback or something like that, especially as we gap higher. Alrighty. And what am I doing? Well, my hedge is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So I'm just going to add a little bit to the hedge. That way, if something does happen, now I can make money to the downside while still not being overexposed to the upside. So this right here, I'm out of at this point, even though it can keep squeezing. It's like, that's enough of a win for me. I mean, you guys know I was talking about these trades over the last week, and I think I made like 500% or something last week. So I'm not necessarily like hurting. I don't need any more upside. I can just hedge from here and just see what happens, right? Get out of some of these, but maybe let another one run or something like that. So pretty much with this, all I'm doing is playing with house money, right? I sold out of all of my exposure in this move. Now I play with house money if something crazy happens. And then also at the same time, I have a hedge in case it breaks down. And guess what? Now I can add to that later on. So not worried about this at all. User trying to test that 438.28 again. Remember, that's the level I said you really have to get above. You really have to get above that 438.28 to really see bullishness come in, or at least a fight to be bullish for a new all-time high, right? We're a little bullish here. But if we get above 438.28, that's where wonky price action can lead to a breakthrough, and we could see a new all-time high across the way. Gold, slowly starting to give up that move, right? Slowly starting to give it up. Look at that. So gold, if this is going to hold true, right now the market's up and gold's up. If that correlation holds, well, then that would say the market's going to follow gold a little bit here. And now we're seeing what? Well, we're starting to struggle, but people haven't hit that sell button just yet. Let's go look at PCC real quick. PCC able to come back down to 1.84. You want to see that cross through the 1.4. That actually usually is a bullish sign, but at this point, you might say, hey, I don't know. Maybe we need some calls in the market in order for some people to lose some money. We'll have to see. Apple is down and the market is flying. Yeah, Apple coming down to lower levels. Remember, this is now flagging. Now we can head a little bit lower. 15-minute could still curl up. Don't be, still got to pay attention to the other way you can get screwed to the downside. If you're in puts up here, okay, how could I get screwed? 15-minute curls up, positive territory, new positive move incoming. What we want to see is a 30-minute full breakdown. We want to see this 30-minute really pull down into this area. That would be a very, very nice look. Tesla retesting the lows here a little bit. We'll have to see what happens with that. Still positive. No reason to say this is breaking down just yet. We're just having a little fight between the bulls and the bears. Amazon actually able to build up. Remember, we were talking about this is still flaggy at this point. If we cross up, another big move. But that move might be a little bit brief. We didn't even get overbought here, so that's something to pay attention to. But Google, right, it was starting to fade that. Okay, now it's staying up in positive territory. We have not seen that fully break down just yet. IWM still heading to higher levels, has a divergence on the RSI. So only one. That's what happens in short squeezes. Smiling instant camera, that's what happens. That's why we briefly mentioned we could just gap up if the daily momentum is there. If they don't need the buyers, they can just send this higher. That's how short squeezes kind of work. They don't necessarily follow perfect technicals. They just, one of the larger time frames takes over, like a daily or a 2 hour or a 4 hour. Mainly a 4 hour or a daily will take over, and you'll just see up bar, up bar, up bar. This is the environment where you can see 7 up days in a row. Where do you post your entry? My entries are so hip fire very quick. My exits are very quick. I try to just make it known when I'm entering stuff. So right now, hedging is the big thing that I'm doing. I'm adding a little bit more to it because it's cheap. It's cheap to hedge. and we could see some volatility come back in. But I'm not taking many plays. I'm not adding to. If anything, I'm just letting the house money ride. Let's see. I mean, opening at 100 RSI and working your way down, mass manipulation, stair step. It is like a manipulative looking thing, but that's how short squeezes behave. It is how they behave. Now, you would say it could be manipulated with how big the PCC is right now. You'd say, okay, well, there's a lot of puts in this market, and it just keeps going up. They can now just cause the market to go up to make all those people lose money. They can. And look at this. We're about to go test that daily expected move, the Qs. About to maybe make a move towards that daily expected move, but the SPY, a little bit closer. So this is where we really have to pay attention. This is where you really want to be on your toes. And Palantir earnings are aftermarket. That already made a move higher. Like I was saying, if it makes a move higher before the earnings, we just talked about Palantir this morning, it's pretty much a get out of jail free card now. If you were to the call side before this week, you would say, okay, cool, I made my money. I'm not going to, you have no risk going into tomorrow. If you had calls today and you made money, it's like you have no risk going into tomorrow. Sure, you have like a opportunity cost, right? You have the opportunity to make more money, but you also give yourself the opportunity to lose a bunch of money. So you have to take those into perspective and say, would you rather make $1,000 for sure today, or potentially $0 or $3,000 tomorrow? Smart people would take the $1,000, in my opinion. I would take the $1,000. No risk stacking silver either. I mean, any hard asset, you really don't have too much risk to, as long as you're not, that's the risk with land and that's the risk with what land and a house is. Your property tax is going to scale up with that inflation as well. Semicon industry for some time. Slot machine, I'm trying to read your last comment. Gold had been the chosen meter for IC fabrication for some time. And I probably don't know enough individually about that. I'm guessing you're just saying gold is pretty valuable in that sector. Was actually chosen metal because it's not easy to oxidize. Very easy to bonding for ICs. Sorry, I'm not versed too much in that, but thing is, I think it's like gold has had value for some time for a reason, right? It's a softer metal, you can mold it a little bit better, and then also it's a conductor, right? So silver is the future. See, M7 really believes in silver, and I respect it. Coming up towards the daily expected move. So let's talk about that for a second. If you're new here and you don't know about these expected moves, okay, this is taught in the course a little bit more extensively if you want to learn more about it and why they're important. Once you understand why an indicator is important, not what it is, but why it's important, it makes it a lot easier to use it in a very good way and give you an edge. And that's what we do in the course over and over and over, is we tell you why the indicator is important, what makes it important, and why these ranges are important. And right now, what are we seeing? Well, we're approaching the upside range. So what does that tell us? Well, if we get outside of that 68% chance to come down, it tells you the probabilities that people take profit in this area is very good. So an actual pullback from this level is more probable than to see something crazy happen, okay? Or even moving sideways is more probable than seeing something crazy happen. Now, we are in a short squeeze, so you have to keep that in mind and say something crazy happening, a little more likely at this point. But if we just follow the normal distribution, the normal probabilities here, then we would say, okay, well, this reached this area, and now it has the chance to maybe even fade and come fill that gap. I was talking like copper. Copper's a pretty good indication. I have to look that up. I haven't paid attention to it in a while, but a lot of people use copper to follow like crash indications as well. I think you're right on the money, short squeeze, and that's why you have to pay attention up here. Is because I know a lot of people just say, hey, we're up in this area, okay, I take shorts. No, we're in an environment of a squeeze, so just be a little cautious there. It means like maybe just don't use as much money if you want to do a play like that, if that's been working for you and you're just kind of addicted to doing it at this point. It's like, okay, well, just be careful because this area does have a little bit more potential to squeeze. So just be like, okay, I'm going to use a smaller size. Slot machine, we like the info. Don't worry, no one's fighting in here. We like the info. We love when people come in and give insight into something that they are passionate about, they know more about. It's awesome. And I bet at the end of this, you and JS are going to be besties in figuring out the best option for everyone. Tesla going down. All right, let's go take a look at Tesla real quick. Starting to head down from here. The coin got it right. But now, what if this just crosses back down? Well, that's going to be a negative sign. We can pay attention to weekly ranges on Patreon. So we're going to go over to my other charts here. I'm just going to look around a little bit. And as of right now, the Q's hit 438.28, and now the resistance is coming in. So great point to pay attention to there. And now we just want to see what happens from here. We're still paying attention to the same signals, right? We're still paying attention to the same stuff. Oh, wait. Ah, dang it. I didn't see this. More Pando. Is more Pando here? More Pando. More Pando, say hi in the chat. We got to talk to more Pando for a second. More Pando, thank you so much for the donation. I really do appreciate it. I just wanted to say that. More Pando, you took the course and everything, and you've been giving me some donations when you get some good wins, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for giving back to the channel. Remember, every time you give back to the channel, it just means we can do more things, right? We can do more things. I'm actually trying to turn Saturday's video into an actual show. I want to add fun things like the coin flip during earnings, and we do a whole video of coin flips telling you which way the stock's going to go. Not financial advice with a coin flip, obviously, but I think that would be very, very fun. More Pando, thanks for the tip for gold. Yes, and I took the same play. I took profit this morning. Hopefully you were able to make a good amount. I made about 70%. What's your view on NEM? I probably haven't looked at. Made $1,000. Congratulations, More Pando. Can we get some congratulations for More Pando in the chat? Always giving back to the community as well. Always giving back to the YouTube, which if you guys don't know what I do with any of the YouTube money, if you don't know, I make maybe $10 a day on YouTube, and I put it all back in some way, either with my time or, looking into things like t-shirts, into design, into things that can make it better. Coffee mugs and things like that. Little things that we can start to build on. I can start to create now because of you guys in the community, and we can really build this into something. So thank you guys so much for giving back. More Pando, good trade. Tesla or NEM. Doesn't this look a lot like Tesla, a lot like Google at this point, right? Doesn't this look a lot like Tesla and Google? So Newmont Corp, this here looks a lot like that. What I would pay attention to still, a confirmed break, right? A closing up in this area would be very, very big. So if we look at this on an hourly, it's going to look very, very similar, I believe, to Google or Tesla, right? Wasn't able to go positive just yet. If that can go positive, we could see a better move. This beat up for a little bit longer, so maybe a 2-hour curling up would be a better confirmation for you. And Bitcoin does have the opportunity. I actually think Bitcoin has that opportunity. So if this 2-hour curls up, what I'd pay attention to is a 2-hour divergence for this. So the reason we're talking about upside, this was chosen. The direction was chosen at this point. Even if we see some volatility still, if this 2-hour curls up at any time, okay, next big move could be around the corner, right? It could be right there. So what would I pay attention to? Well, this 2-hour popping up, and then I'd look for some kind of divergence, because if that pops up, okay, you probably don't want to be in that move too much longer, but it looks pretty good to the upside. You just haven't gotten the confirmations yet. There you go, More Pando. Everyone's excited for you. More Pando, really, you've come into the community. You've really been contributing a lot. You're always commenting. You're always asking questions. You're very hungry to learn. You take the course. You join the Patreon. That is the success there. And that's why I'm very happy. Thank you so much for donating. Almost every single week, More Pando's just making money and donating, and that's awesome. Even if it's just money for me to go grab lunch or something with my girls, and you guys know I appreciate that. So thank you guys so much to everyone who has donated. You guys are awesome. I'm not going to sit here and be like, please donate, please donate. No, it's just, if you find the information helpful and you feel like donating, any amount is great. Even if it's just for a cup of coffee. You guys know I like my coffee. So what I'm going to do real quick, by the way, speaking of coffee, I'm going to leave you guys on the cues actually so you can see the reaction that we're getting, right? 15 minute, 438.28, the point that we really need to take back. We're moving sideways at this point. So just pay attention because we could take that back and we want to make sure to hold at that level. All right, so I will be, like, subscribers are free to help as well. Exactly. That's the way to look at it too, Corey. It's like, even if you just like every single video or you subscribe or you watch, you know, after you watch the stock that we're going over in my videos, you just let that video play out. It's very, very good for me as a creator. It makes me more encouraged to keep going because right now, obviously, I'm still fairly new, right? I've only done this this channel since August, right? I've been looking at charts forever. My wife just said, hey, why don't you put your ideas out there? I think you could really help people. And boom, we did that. People saw it as helpful. We're growing very, very well. And we're about to hit 5K. So big cheers to you guys for liking and subscribing. It is awesome to just see that number grow and more people come in with even some of the same questions that people had with my first 100 subscribers. And I am perfectly happy to discuss those things, right? I'm never going to shun away anyone that's new. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you on this for just a second. I'm going to go make another coffee real quick, and I will be right back in about 2 minutes, taking a short little break. We're going to go for about 30 minutes more after I get back and then do a full breakdown, okay? So we're just going to stare at this for a little bit, for a couple minutes, and I'll be right back. Thank you guys so much. And if you do have a moment, maybe go check out the Patreon. Maybe even go check out the course. You could be like more Pando and making some money and able to give back to the community. Thank you so much, guys. Anybody else always do that? I always like walk away, I forget my coffee mug, and then I have to come all the way back. Be right back, guys. I don't do a happy dance, guys. I don't do a happy dance. No, don't do any happy dances. Unless my daughter's around and I have to, I'm not doing any happy dances. Now, last week, I almost did a happy dance, right? Because last week, that day, remember that day I was all quiet as Fed Day and I took some plays that looked pretty good and I was pretty confident in them. And then we just saw that explosion. I was like, okay, I wasn't that confident. I made like 300% on one trade in one day. It was like a what? Let's see, I think I had $2,000 in it. So that got up to somewhere between 6 and 8 grand in like an hour. And I was like, okay, usually that takes me like a week or something to make, or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I'll take 6 grand in an hour. But I will dance if my daughter's crying and she needs to be entertained. I'm dancing, and I can tell you sometimes it makes her cry harder. It really does. I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a good dancer. Sorry. Which time frame on AMD? Now, someone did mention a triple top maybe on AMD. On what? Like a 1 minute or something like that. I don't read into that too much, but not necessarily seeing anything that looks like a triple top to me. I mean, obviously the recent bars are testing the same area, but not necessarily seeing anything that really convinces me. Okay, this has to go down from here. Let's those. Red. All right. Cool. Looking over. Man, we still can't get above 438.28. Look at us. Look at us calling exactly where that resistance would come in. Very important level, that 438.28 on the keys. Nothing really here for AMD besides overbought on the shorter time frames. So what you would like to see, we just broke out of an important zone. What if we fully go retest that and then we see that move? All right, that's what I would kind of like to happen as a trader. We'll have to see. Apple starting to want to break down through some flagging here. Remember, though, the 15-minute, we got to pay attention to how the short side can get screwed over. All right, if the 15-minute curls up, you're probably seeing a move higher into this zone. And then I'd be very, very worried if that happens by end of day. I'd be very worried for Palantir earnings because you'd have Apple going up out of its zone, maybe even testing a weekly expected move or something like that. So that would cause me to be very cautious. Right now, still leaning towards that overall 30-minute pullback idea. I think that's the most probable thing at this point. We want to pay attention to things like HYG, this thing not giving up the gain just yet. TLT never really made that move higher. Never really made that move higher. Sorry, I'm hiccuping a bunch. And what's that causing to happen? Well, we could look at the dollar. Remember, the dollar mainly don't even want to look at a 30-minute. You mainly want to be looking at a 2-hour. What's happening here? Oh, well, we're trying to get a higher low in this area and see if we can make a move up. But just note that the 2-hour is really negative. So if we do get that pullback, we see a big reaction in the dollar. What can we pay attention to? Well, if that rolls back down, if this rolls up to the center line, rolls back down, that will be a sign that this is most likely just a pullback. So we're going to lead into a lot of those things. We're going to see if a lot of those things are proving right now. Volatility looks like it wants to come back into this market. We'll have to see what happens. Look at that PCC level, 1.73 now. Pretty cool. Oh yeah, Bitcoin. Let's go look at Bitcoin for a sec. Let's go have some fun. All right, Bitcoin, so 2-hour, 4-hour in the daily and the weekly. Those are the ones we look at. We don't look at 30 minutes, hourlies. I don't really look at anything like that. I like my 4 hours because they look a lot like my 2-hour in regular trading. All right, so what do I want to see from the 4-hour here? Anytime that this wants to curl up, the next move is here, right? Stays in positive territory. If it's going to break down further and cause some kind of thing down to here, well, I could make a divergence, so I want to pay attention to that. If I am going to see something more dramatic happen, well, then maybe I want to look at a higher time frame. Let's see how that daily looks. Well, it's been beat up for some time. So if I'm going to see a major drop, though, what am I going to pay attention to on this daily chart, the 200? The 200, why? Because if I just make a little, you know what, let's do it. Let's make a little zone here. We can actually try to assess what's going on with crypto right now by just going like this. We could just say this. This zone right here from about 53,000. Let's get this on this wick here. There you go. From about 53,000 to 50.6K, that's going to be the very important area. Look how that would line up with the 200 as well. So if we want to get some kind of little divergence or something like that on the daily scale, maybe we see some sudden drop, see that buy back up, and then you get that divergence right here. That's what I would say for Bitcoin. If that were to prove, I think you got a good shot that Bitcoin's going to go up to 80K. I don't know about 100K, but I think 80K is very possible. But once you start to head to lower levels, well, look at this. This MACD is still pretty low, so make sure that's not curling back down. Dogecoin did see a massive move, by the way. I saw this last night, or I saw this last week, and I was just like, this is pretty funny. Dogecoin able to build up from this level down here, cross up, get above the center line on the RSI. Some good stuff here. If there's anything to read into here, let's see. All right, 4 hour. Well, we got a big divergence across the way here, kind of flattened stuff. Where would we go to? Well, we'd head right up to this level. So it actually is performing very, very structurally, right? We see the structure to head higher, left, head. Now we carve out some kind of right shoulder, maybe down towards like a 13-cent mark or something like that. And then we see that right shoulder come in. So Dogecoin, even though I think it's a funny coin, you guys know I made a bunch of money off of $100 on Dogecoin. I turned $100 into $6,000, but that was just a fun play, right? I was just like, hey, Dogecoin's starting to gain some popularity. Marketing's everything with these coins. So I was like, hey, I convinced my brother to buy it. He made like 13 grand. I made like 6. And boom, left head, right shoulder. Structure looks okay here. So what you want to happen is pay attention, because we could get some kind of pullback, and these crypto pullbacks can be dramatic, right? You can rip away 20% really fast. And then boom, this could curl up one more time into positive territory on a 4 hour. And you're like, all right, I have the structure. I'm heading higher. Maybe Dogecoin goes back up to 20 cents. Coin, this is something similar as well. The 4 hour divergence here, look at that. Able to confirm, now pulling back. We'll have to see what happens from here, right? So 30-minute you can pay attention to here. What's happening? Divergence. What's happening on Bitcoin? Seeing some kind of pullback starting to happen. So this means that 30-minute can roll down. What could that do? It could roll down this 2 hour, and then we could see another 2 hour divergence, or just some kind of higher low on the 30-minute. So that's what I'd pay attention to for coin. 30-minute higher low, curling up into positive territory, or if we see something dramatic, a 2 hour divergence. That seems very, very good. This here, still making a good upward move, able to confirm and head higher from here. We're paying attention to, well, yes, we're paying attention to 165, but something a little closer to pay attention to would be just this point right here of about 160, 160.50, 160.87. Anywhere in this area is where I think we could see, support coming in. We break it, we drop dramatically, very important area. What do we do? Resistance, resistance, resistance. So if we can use that as resistance, hold up a little higher and then break through, that would be a very bullish sign with a nice head and shoulders. So we'll have to pay attention to that going forward. Right now, though, AMD on the shorter time frames, it's cooking. It's cooked. It's cooking, but it's also cooked. And it's still it's getting overcooked, right? It's cooking and it's getting overcooked. So we want to see some kind of pullback as a trader. Doesn't have to happen. That daily momentum can take over, but I'd really like to see a pullback in this area. I think that would be very, very useful. SPY starting to give up a little bit. Or I'm sorry, the Qs at least. I was paying attention to the Qs on my other screen. Starting to give up just a tiny, tiny bit here. So what we want to pay attention to now, which by the way, on my other charts, I kind of have this wrong. But that's okay. I'll just leave it here. My flag's kind of wonky on my other charts, which I don't like. But right now, the 30-minute backing off would make a lot of sense. And let's see if that comes to fruition. That's all we have to pay attention to. SPY, you can see reaction up towards the daily expected move, starting to give up that gain as of right now. So watch out. We might have a gap and trap on us, and then we might actually come fill this gap or even come down here to this level right here. Just note, we could see a full reaction all the way down to here and still turn up, and that would be bullish. Just keep that in mind. Do you think NVIDIA has more room up today? NVIDIA is behaving a little bit crazy. You have 30-minute divergence still available here, right? You see how the MACD over here is a little bit higher. You see how the RSI right here is just a little bit higher. So that just tells you, hey, some kind of pullback could happen, right? Something like this, something all the way down like this. If it's going to head upward, I'd really like it to, if it's going to break this, be brief, right? But I'd really like it to hold up above that. If it starts to break the recent trend, then you start to look at a possible head and shoulders in this area, retest, and then break down. So that's how I would see it breaking down, right? But as of right now, with how the weekly moves are set up, I would say something like this is more probable. Higher today, it's a toss-up. You're seeing very bullish behavior, but if that just gives up at any point, remember, I'm not a 0DTE kind of guy. I pay attention to which way it's swinging and how far I can take a few weeks out and then just watch a big play happen and double my money real quick. Yeah, we can look at Costco, Carlos. Why is there low volume today? Squeezing, right? Squeezing you can squeeze up on low volume. Wow. Okay, I would not be FOMOing into this at all. I would not be FOMOing into this at all. If you think Costco still has another move higher, which it's been trickling higher for some time, watch out. This is the stair stepper into the top of a cliff, and then you could just drop off. What I'd really say here, from a trading perspective, not the best look for an entry, according to how I do things. Right? I would like to see that pull back and then curl up. I'm being patient, right? I know it's very simple, but that's something the course really helps you with. Remember, guys, the course 149 for today only, and then that's over. So if you want to get it for a cheaper price, today's the day to get it. Right now, you can ask questions about it live if you'd like, but as of right now, you would say, I need this to beat down as a trader. If this is just going to keep going, I'm going to pay attention to a different stock. I'm not going to FOMO into anything. Watch the banks fail. The thing is, so here's what I'll talk about with volatility. And I haven't said this much because I don't want people to get too worried. But since you guys are live and you guys have an open mind, okay, here's the thing about 2-hour divergences, even on the VIX. And we're hitting the point of 438.28, which is where I said, hey, that's where I'm looking for a high or a lower high. Okay, so we're at that point. And the volatility is showing you this signal. What is the thing about volatility showing you this signal while the SPY is heading to higher levels, needs some kind of pullback, and is seeing some crazy price action to the upside? What is this right here? This is actually a signal that turns around the daily. The daily. All right? So if that 2-hour turns around the daily and the daily is able to cross, this is the crash scenario. And maybe something crazy like banks failing, geopolitical news, something like that. I want you to be aware of that. Now, do I think that that is overall going to happen? No. Am I open to it? Yes. Very open to it. Yes, if Dixie goes up, stocks go down most of the time. That's how we knew there was insider selling, because the dollar was going up while stocks were going up. So that overall tells us, hey, someone's selling in this move. But I just wanted to point this out, how 2-hour divergences do curl up the daily. If that curls up positive territory, we could see a huge sell-off. I don't want you to be feared out or not have some kind of fear at this area, right? Don't get too bullish, because there's always something to pay attention to on the bearish side. And if you're one of those people who can pay attention to multiple things at once, who can pay attention and not be, it's kind of like politics. If you're the person who can be open to looking at both sides, you're probably going to pick the better option than the person who is just voting for a side because they wear a color blue or they wear a color red, right? Now you're paying attention to this. If the 2-hour curls up here, this is still a crash scenario that could happen. Is that adding up probability-wise in the weekly time frame right now for this week? No, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. So what I want to pay attention to here, remember, NVIDIA's even telling you, hey, I could reverse the trend and head down. So just pay attention. Geopolitical stuff, anything like that will cause some bad stuff to happen. And that's actually gold kind of telling you that as well, saying, hey, I'm in a wedge like this and gold needs to pop. Why would it pop? Well, geopolitical something. Banks failing. Anything like that could cause gold to actually pop higher. And at this point, you would say, this is a crash indication. Hopefully that was helpful, Carlos, about Costco there. Israel moving into Rafah, geopolitical risk, hence the huge puts. While you are sleeping, the VIX may pop. Now, maybe you could, Didi, could you give us more insight into what you've seen about the geopolitical news? Yeah, I mean, have you seen, like, they've invaded just now and there's potential for something to happen tomorrow? Is that what's going on? Are people not aware of that? Because I'm just saying this is a crash signal because it can turn up that daily. And if that daily does turn up, you're going to get above 16.83. Now, if we're not going to get that, what's going to happen? We're going to get some kind of pop here, probably towards 16.83. And then we're going to see that start to fade. All right, we'll see that start to curl back down. But if that just keeps going, very worried about that. Can see gold at 4K within a year. Your silver's probably going to do well too. New on Market Watch. Okay, let's go. Let's go see if we can find some kind of thing to read about. Let's just type that. That should pop it up. Israel tells civilians 22 minutes ago. Israel tells civilians to leave eastern Rafah. Ceasefire talks are stalled. Gazans start leaving eastern Rafah as Israel military orders evacuations an hour ago. Unspeakable catastrophe. Catastrophe. Thousands flee Rafah as Israel warns of assault. So be very careful. This is a time to be cautious. You know? Like, why not? Why the heck not? Now, you are being warned about that before it even happens, so that could, you know, be we'll see if that actually causes something. As of right now, you could see that geopolitical news come in. I want you to be very aware of that. But now that I see that, I'm like, all right, let me see what's going on here. Let me see. All right, so now we just say we're good. We're just chilling. We're relaxing. We know that this is an area that is very important on the Qs, right? We marked this off weeks in advance, by the way. We marked off a point to pay attention to weeks in advance. We've been talking about 438.28 in almost every single video for the last multiple, like 2 or 3 weeks, right? What is this? April 19th. I think ever since this bottom here is when we started talking about it. So we've been talking about this for 2 weeks. And so this is the point where we're still in the sell zone. We have to get past it. We're at 438.28, the marking point that I thought was really important. We touched it. And now we're starting to see some fading. We'll just have to see if anything's proven with that. And as that look happens, PCC keeps dropping. So calls starting to trickle in at this level. Maybe one thing I want to pay attention to is max pain. I might look at that later and talk about it in the video tonight. The market need bad news so that it could correct for more buying. That very well could be it. That is, overall, you guys know that I pay attention to fundamentals, but I think the charts will give you a little bit of insight before that even happens. Like how we can tell insiders are selling, and then we see a daily divergence, and then Amazon drops. Okay, cool. Good thing we were paying attention to that. Why did Amazon drop? Well, was it earnings? Or was it something geopolitical? Well, at the time it was something geopolitical, but the charts told us before it even happened. That's true, Dragon. The market can just keep going up as well. Remember, just we need to pay attention to multiple things at once. This is a very bullish move. It will need some kind of pullback, but does that pullback lead to a reversal? I think if you want a reversal, you really have to pay attention to NVIDIA at these levels. If it can confirm this divergence and actually turn the 2-hour down here, the 2-hour divergence is very scary here. Why? Because 2-hour divergences, if that would complete, if it hasn't completed at all yet, guys, it's not even close to completing. I want to point that out. But if that completes, that means this daily might roll back around. That is very, very worrisome. Now, at this point, you would say the daily scale, this does not look like it's going to turn around at all. So you really have to be patient and wait for these signals. What if all of this bad news tomorrow, Israel doesn't do anything, and then the market goes higher? You know what I mean? So the best thing that I can do is, if I have any plays to the upside, I have my hedge. That's what it is. That's all I'm doing. I have my hedge, and if I need to get out of those positions tomorrow, okay, cool. Or if I want to, maybe by end of day, I'm looking at stuff and I think, hey, this is too risky, I'm out. Buying after a huge run-up is a sucker's play. And I got to agree with you there. We have a 2-hour that's overbought, almost overbought on NVIDIA. We have an hourly that's showing divergence that's overbought with divergence that if that completes, that's not looking good. And you have a 30-minute that's overbought. You have all these short time frames that say, hey, I need a pullback. The only way that this heads higher is, well, what if all the news that is supposed to call a pullback just doesn't happen and that energy is released in the other direction? and see, just wait. I think it was Paracosm. Paracosm said, hey, I'm just watching the craziness this week. I already made some money, so I'm going to just watch the craziness. I think that's very, very cool. Chasing a move rarely works out well. Yes, it's FOMO, right? We don't want to get FOMO'd into anything. That's why it's like you see, what was the one? Did we just talk about Costco? Let's go talk about Costco when we're talking about this, right? This would be a FOMO play. I have an hourly that's cooked. I have a 2-hour that's overbought. I have a 30-minute that looks like, hey, this thing needs a pullback. So how could I get hurt by this? Well, if I let my emotions get the best of me and say, this is a good point to buy. It's not. This is not a good point to buy. At least with my strategies, right? Your 0 DTE guys may be a little different, but this with my strategy, not a good point to buy. This, good point to buy, right? Good point to buy. Even if we had some kind of minor pullback and that just took some time and we flagged out. Okay, flag out. This gets to the center line, curls up. Right here is a better place to buy than right here. Right here, better place to buy than right here. Do not get FOMO'd into anything. Even if things keep heading up, I encourage you not to get FOMO'd into anything. Be patient, wait for your setups. Silver boom incoming. I actually believe you on that. I don't think silver's nearly where it's at. I think silver, you know, I don't want to like look at the chart and say that, but I think silver has the chance to go up almost like 40% over the next few months, especially if something geopolitical starts to happen. But from where it's at right now, am I going to take a play on that? No, it'll just be cool to see that because that would make sense. I like the chart for a short. We can take a look at that, Laws. We can take a look at some of these. Dang, that's good. But you know, because you took the course that this is not the best place to buy. We're not even going to do a breakdown of this. Not even going to do a breakdown of this because if you take the course, you know this is not a good place to buy. You know this would be a FOMO play. You know exactly, if you take the course, you know exactly what you're looking for in order to head higher in this move. Don't get FOMO'd in. Look for another thing to trade. That's what I would say. Yeah, so geopolitically, you just want to pay attention to everything China's doing and then everything that's going on with Israel and Gaza. I think that's those are the two things you really have to pay attention to on the that side of things. Silver looks great, but it's also an industrial metal, so less of the pure play than likes of gold. Platinum looks interesting. Was the 15-minute chart? That was on the 15-minute chart, by the way. Darwin. Qs and Tesla both started to decline after they came out of overbought conditions on the RSI. And that's on a 15-minute. So if you look at Qs, the 15-minute you can pay attention to. It's just now starting to roll over. There's your divergence. Okay, this is a pullback scenario. Now, what do we want to see? Is the SPY doing that? All right, the SPY giving you some flatness on the RSI, downward move on the MACD here, which tells you a pullback is the most likely scenario here. Once again, you take the course, you know all this stuff, right? More Pando, congratulations on all your winnings. I mean, he's a very passionate guy. I love it. Always willing to learn. A lot of people who take the course just message me and ask what makes you successful. And I'm like, well, part of it is just being passionate about it. Part of it is always willing to learn. And that's what I do every day. I still learn from you guys talking in the chat. I love it. So Darwin's telling me, hey, you got to pay attention to these things. And I'm like, let's go see. All right, 15-minute divergence. Good catch, Darwin. All right, now we'll see. Is this going to lead to a pullback? Something more dramatic? Well, what do I want to look at? Maybe I want to look at volatility. Is it proving anything right now? Well, it's confirming an upward move, but not breaking out of structure. Could this be the moment? Yes, it could. It very well could. And so I want to pay attention to the 2-hour. The 2-hour here are going to be very important. Look at that thing kissing. About to scream. Be careful. I actually wonder if streaming is actually the best way to trade. So streaming is a blessing and a curse if you're talking about me doing this while trading. Sometimes when I'm talking about something, I see a great opportunity because I'm live. And the thing that I would say is very useful, and maybe you guys would actually try this, is film yourself talking about charts throughout the first hour of the day and then watch it back. Because when you watch it back, you can kind of look at it from a third-person perspective and be like, okay, does this make sense? Is this correct? Or am I finding any flaws? That's actually what I do with my YouTube videos. I fully watch the video before I post it to be like, was this information helpful and is it as correct as it can be? And that is something that really helps. But trading wise, sometimes it gets a little bit hectic. And sometimes I have to be like, okay, I need to pay attention to this. I'll take profit a lot when I am live, just because I'm like, I know I'm going to be streaming another hour and I don't want to mess anything up. No, if you film yourself talking about stocks and watch it back, I think it's a very good learning experience. And then you can film it the next day. You film it almost every single morning, because that's what this is doing for me. It allows me to watch my own thinking back and see if anything is proving. Sorry about that. See if anything is proving, see if anything is playing out, see if I was wrong about something and I need to think about it in a different way. Also, if you say something, there's 200 people here, that would correct you. Well, in this scenario, if you would film yourself, the market will correct you. So I would encourage you maybe even to not even use money and film your thinking for a week, just to make sure you got the right thinking going, right? Maybe you don't even trade any money. You just say what is the things you're paying attention to and see how that plays out for a week and be like, okay, I do have a good mindset for this. It's so strange, hard to watch yourself. Trust me, it is. And I have a nasally gay voice, and I hate hearing my own voice. See. I hope you're filming when a 60% crash hits. I hope so too. I hope so too. What if that happens tomorrow? No, there won't be a 60% down day tomorrow. But pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool just to be doing it. I can tell you this, I will never be one of the streamers that's like, and you know, I guess I should do this and be like, no jinxing and stuff like that. But I'll probably never be, I'll say probably, the probabilities are with me that I'll never be the guy that loses, you know, $50,000 live or something like that, and just you see his soul go away. That's usually a lot of 0DTE people. My positions allow me to get in and out, and I'm never risking too much. That would really really affect me. But I hope so too, M7. I'm excited if that would happen. That'd be fun. I mean, the thing is, so this is how my brain works too when I think about a crash. I always think to myself like, oh, that'd be exciting, that'd be fun. But it also makes me feel like bad. I think it makes me feel kind of bad, just because I know how many people's lives are really affected when bad things happen. And so if something bad were to happen, like banks failing and things like that, like I know individual people like you guys are going to possibly be suffering. And like myself, my family, we might suffer too. And that does not make me excited. The only reason that I would say I'm excited if some kind of 60% crash happened would be things would be cheap. And that's kind of weird to think about both things at once. This is like, I have a daughter to think about and that type of stuff. So I'm not going to be like overly excited if everyone out there is losing money and the world goes chaotic. Like, am I going to be excited about that? Probably not. But as far as watching charts, am I going to be excited about that? Probably. The Dow on the way down. We haven't looked at the Dow in a minute. Let's go check in on the Dow real quick, see what's happening here. Ooh, fading that move. Uh-oh. Hourly? Do you have divergence here? No real divergence there. I'd still be looking for that 30-minute pullback at this point, maybe a retest. You know, one thing I might do here, clone this bad boy. Is this some kind of big flag? Oh yeah, no, I'm just matching that up. Let me just extend this out so I'm not like cheating. I like mine to be pretty even. Pretty much exactly the same. I don't want to try to make it fit too often. Would you look at that? We might actually be flagging. So if this wanted to break down from here, what would we see? Well, boom, 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 maybe. 100%. I'll make good money when the market turns, but everyone suffers. Pensions are hurt. The middle class is basically removed, and it's super rich and poor. Again, not great macro. Yes, so that's how you have to think about it. And that's why when I was talking to my brother yesterday, like I said, he's an MLO. So if you need a house and you're in Kansas or something like that, he can help you out, get a loan for you. But he's doing very, very well. He's a people person and just a very, very smart, intelligent guy. And, you know, me and him talk about it. And I was telling him, I was like, well, he's like, well, it's really hard to sell these $300,000 homes here. Here it is. I said, well, that's because the middle class is hurting the most out of everyone right now. The poor get poorer, and they can't afford anything. So really, you would say actually the poor are the ones who are hurt the most. But middle class is starting to become poorer, which means they can't buy a $300,000 house anymore. They have to go down towards 150 and 200. And he goes, yeah, I'm selling $200,000 houses like crack. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that makes total sense. I'm like, because they're getting priced out of that price point in my city, and therefore they have to go a little bit lower. Who will benefit the most from the rate cut? At this point, it's almost like no one. Bond traders. Bond investors like myself who has bonds at 82.50. My sister's not a pilot. She works for pilots. Now she actually is a manager of a local meat store, like a butchery almost. She's kind of a manager there. They do high-end beef and they do grass-fed. They have their own grass-fed cattle and things like that. And so she does like Wagyu beef, and she'll get the big, like in Kansas, it's a big deal if you can get huge crab claws. She gets like king crab, fresh king crab, which in Kansas is very hard to get and things like that. And then my brother's not a realtor. My brother is an MLO. So my brother does loan origination. So he's the guy that you get a mortgage from. Oh, all right, let's go. We've kind of done a little bit of a breakdown. It's time for me to do my breakdown real quick. So remember, guys, we're still paying attention to pretty much pullbacks across the board. So this is going to be pretty quick. But 30-minute rolling down, that would be a good sign, okay, if that can curl back up. If we see something geopolitical happen, well, then we know the VIX might be proving something. We'll go over the VIX in a moment. Remember that the Qs, we're still in this range and almost like a flag at this point. If we see some kind of dramatic drop, well, we want to pay attention where that's basing out. Now, if we do see something like this happen, we could be getting some kind of dramatic crash down. Be cautious with that. Apple already starting to turn down, turning out of this flagging, could head into this zone. So just paying attention to a lot of things curling down. Tesla able to curl down. See if that's able to curl back up in the future, but right now fading that move. Breaks below this point. Pay attention to our weekly range, maybe even the gap fill down in this area. That was a terrible drawing, but gap fill down in this area towards 168. Amazon, trying to push a little higher. Remember we were talking about, hey, yeah, Amazon's fading the move, but it's flagging. So we could see another reaction up before that rips away. We'll have to pay attention to that. We didn't even get overbought at this point for Amazon. NVDA, this thing just screaming higher, overbought. And eventually that's going to pull back, guys. Eventually it will pull back. If that momentum just keeps taking over on the daily scale, that would be a little bit wild. We have to pay attention to geopolitical news as well. AMD, right, able to go positive. Good sign that this would be a higher low. Low, higher low. What do? We break out, we touch inside it, then we can go higher. We'll have to see from there. But AMD looks like it needs to digest a little bit from here. Meta, similar story, right? Seems like it needs to digest. It got back above 453.08. Very bullish sign. But as you're trickling higher, there's always a chance that that thing starts to pull back down, and maybe we need to curl down towards the center line to go higher. Maybe we just like do a little flag like this and then curl back up. Just pay attention for the next move higher, and then stick around because we're going to talk about that volatility. Now, Microsoft, this is making another upward move. Look at that, overbought. This is where we expect some of that volatility to come in. I think we do see some kind of pullback here. We just want to see if that's dramatic, and then we base out at any time. See that curl up on the MACD down here. That'd be a good sign. Google, This thing trying to go higher looks a lot like Tesla. So if it breaks through this level, I'm still paying attention to weekly ranges and things, but we could see some kind of pullback. I'd really see we need a clean break up or a clean breakdown to get some direction for that. We can go to Netflix real quick since someone asked about it. Very, very cooked here. Very, very cooked. You pretty much have like a big A, B, C right now, and you might need some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you might need the 4 and then the 5 to head up higher. So just pay attention if this gets close to the center line. If we're going to see that ripped away, well, things are going to go negative, guys. And if we're going to see it all ripped away, what are we going to see? We're going to see this proven. We're not going to see, it's rejecting the cross down on the 30-minute. Good sign that volatility is here. But we need this to confirm and go positive. If this 2-hour can confirm here and go positive, that would be a very bad sign. And you want to pay attention to if the daily is crossing up at that point. If the daily is able to cross up positive territory, I'd say we might be having a crash. All right. Now, am I leaning towards that this week? No, I want to make that very clear. I think that we'll see some kind of pop in volatility and see that subside, but I'm still open to it. I'm still here and I'm still open to that fact. All right. So hopefully you guys are aware that the crash can happen, but it looks like probability-wise this is happening. But if geopolitical news causes that after hours, just be very cautious because there could be a crash in sight. This is an area where it's like, okay, Palantir made the move before, so that's good. Now I don't have to worry about that. I got Mara made the move before, so I don't have to worry about that. I can just be out of that, right? And then I could say, hey, volatility looks like it's going to scale up in some way. So if I'm taking upside, I at least want to hedge. If not, try to play some kind of crash. So we'll have to see what's happening from here. But thank you guys so much for subscribing and being here. Make sure, if you guys want to learn this, and I'm very serious about this today, if you're even slightly thinking about taking that course, I really want you to think about getting it hard today. I really want you to think about getting it because it is very, very useful and it will help you a lot when this volatility scales up. And we're in a time where that crash could happen overnight. Okay. So I'm not leaning towards that right now, but if that does happen, you will need more skills to trade in this market. And that course will really help you out. And right now it's at a discount, $149 for today only. So look in the description down there. It's going to be in there. It goes away today. So by the end of the day today, by tomorrow's stream, you won't be able to get it for $149. Highly encourage that. And thank you to everyone who's taken that and been a part of the Patreon. But thank you guys so much for joining today. Really appreciate it. Liking, subscribing, doing all the things. I really, really do appreciate it. And I look forward to streaming tomorrow. And I will see you later on YouTube. We're starting to flag out, so another upward move could come for the Qs. I just want you to pay attention to that in the shorter time frame. But I'm going to leave you guys here. Before you head out, could I ask you your view on QCOM? We can look at that real quick. Let's look at it real quick. Last one, guys. Last one. All right, Qualcomm. First of all, 15-minute divergence you don't necessarily want to confirm. Now, the 30-minute's going to look like what? Crossing up positive territory, but you're really close to overbought territory. So I would really be looking at that 15-minute divergence and saying that could probably lead to some kind of pullback. Now, anytime we get close to that center line and curl up, well, we haven't had that curl up just yet. If that rejects, okay, it can curl up later on. Maybe we do something like this. Gap support going to be very important here. If we start to lose that, boom, we could see some kind of big move down, maybe even go towards this gap. Am I leaning towards that right now? No, not until that geopolitical news comes out. I know the crash signal is available, but is that actually going to play out? Right now, the probability is we pull back and curl back up into positive territory. Thank you guys so much for watching. I wish you nothing but luck for the rest of the day. I really, really do. I want you guys to succeed, and that's why I'm really pushing the course today. It's the last day, guys, and I think it could do a lot of good for you with confirmations, with understanding the indicators, and just being able to learn a little bit more and add something to what is already working for you, right? Add some kind of profit-taking tool and things like that. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on YouTube tonight. Peace.